A lot of buyers get blindsided by land transfer tax. It's the single biggest closing cost you're going to face when purchasing property, and the rules can get confusing pretty quickly. I'm Zachary Soccio-Marandola. I'm a real estate lawyer here in Toronto, and I work with buyers and sellers every single day to close on their properties. Now, if you don't understand how land transfer tax works, including the first time homebuyer rebate or the double taxation in the city of Toronto, your budget can be off by thousands as you prepare for your purchase. So I'm going to break down land transfer tax as simply and efficiently as possible. What it is, what you'll owe, and a few examples so you can see the actual real numbers. And if you want more of these videos on the legal side of residential real estate, no fluff, no filler, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next one. Land transfer tax is a one-time fee you pay to the province when you buy property in Ontario. You pay this tax up front. You can't finance it, so it doesn't get rolled up into your mortgage. Now, one important point to make is land transfer tax is based on the consideration paid, which in most cases is the actual purchase price, but in some situations that can differ. It's not based on fair market value in the same way the capital gain tax is. So whatever number you agree to pay is what you're going to be taxed on. So let's talk about how land transfer tax is actually calculated. Now, land transfer tax in Ontario is calculated on a sliding scale. It's not a flat percentage. Different portions of the purchase price are taxed at different rates. It's a marginal rate, just like income tax. So here's how the marginal tax rates actually look for provincial land transfer tax. On the first 55,000, 0.5% tax is due. Now between 55,000 and 250,000, you owe 1%. The amount between 250,000 and 400,000 is taxed at 1.5%. 400,000 to $2 million is taxed at 2%, and over $2 million is taxed at 2.5%. You only pay the higher rate on the portion of the purchase price that actually falls into that bracket, not the entire price. Let me show you 3 quick examples so you can see what that actually looks like. So if we have a purchase price of $500,000, your land transfer tax is going to be $6,475. On $1 million, you're looking at $16,475, and on a $2 million purchase price, you're looking at $36,475. Now, this is provincial land transfer tax. It applies to everything you purchase within Ontario. Now, if you're purchasing in the city of Toronto, there's also a municipal land transfer tax. So this is an additional tax on top of the provincial amount. So Toronto is the only city in Ontario that actually charges its own land transfer tax. And for the most part, it's calculated the exact same way as provincial land transfer tax. So whatever you pay to the province of Ontario, you're also going to pay to the city of Toronto. Now, their formula does differ at some of the higher priced homes. So on luxury properties, you're going to pay a higher municipal land transfer tax than you are provincial land transfer tax. So you're going to see here, we've got the exact same calculation up into 2.5%. And then once we get to the $3 million to $4 million, this is where we see an increase. Once you pass that $3 million mark, the percentages go up at the municipal level. They stay the same at the provincial level. So let me show you a few examples of those same purchase prices, but now within the city of Toronto. So again, a purchase price of $500,000, it's going to have the land transfer tax of $6,475 and the exact same amount in municipal land transfer tax. So our total would be $12,950. Now again, on a purchase price of $1 million, we're going to see the exact same amount, $16,475 as the provincial. So we've got a total of $32,950. And again, for $2 million, we're going to duplicate that exactly because again, we're under that 3 million mark. So these are always going to be the same. So we're looking at a total of $72,950 when purchasing a $2 million property. And just to see how it differs with the luxury homes, let's look at 3.5 million. So we'd have $86,475 in provincial land transfer tax, but we'd have $96,475 for municipal land transfer tax. So again, this is because where the percentage brackets start to differ. So once we're over that $3 million, we're going to have a higher tax rate for the municipal land transfer tax. Your total land transfer tax is going to be $182,950. So again, if you're buying outside of Toronto, you're only paying provincial land transfer tax. Once you're inside the city limits, you're going to be paying your provincial land transfer tax as well as municipal land transfer tax. And if you're wondering exactly where those borders are, here's a map. Essentially, the borders are south of Steeles Avenue, east of Etobicoke, west of Scarborough, and north of Lake Ontario. Now, if you're a first-time homebuyer, there is a land transfer tax rebate available. Let's start with what the criteria actually is for a first-time homebuyer. So in order to qualify, you have to be at least 18 years old, you have to be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, you have to have never owned a home anywhere in the world. So even if it was in a different province or a different country altogether, you would still not qualify. Now, if you're married or common law, your spouse must also have never owned a home while they were actually your spouse. And they use the Family Law Act definition of spouse, so that can be common law, and that's living together for 3 years or living together in any permanence with a child. Now, the last criteria, you must also move into the home as your principal residence within 9 months of closing. So if you do qualify as a first-time homebuyer, you're eligible to receive up to $4,000 off of provincial land transfer tax. Now, in today's market with home prices, that rebate typically doesn't cover the entire amount. Most first-time homebuyers are still going to be paying some amount of tax. To give you some context, your purchase price would have to be $368,000 or lower in order for the rebate to cover the entire amount of tax due. If you're in the city of Toronto and also subject to municipal land transfer tax, you also qualify for a rebate on that amount. And in that case, it's $4,475 as a maximum rebate. So it's actually slightly higher. So again, once we're using the maximum rebates past that 368,000 or so, again, once we apply these, we're going to start to see the rates differ. So let's go back to our examples again here, this time with rebates applied for first-time homebuyers. So you're going to see that there's a rebate maximum amount of $4,000 when you have a purchase price of $500,000, and you're going to see that maximum municipal land transfer tax rebate of $4,475. So if you're using that maximum rebate as a first-time homebuyer, purchasing at $500,000 is going to mean a total of $4,475 in land transfer tax still payable. Now, once you get to that $1 million price point, and again, applying the maximum rebate, your total is going to become $24,475. At that $2 million price point, your total land transfer tax becomes $64,475. Now let's look at a few situations where people get tripped up on land transfer tax and the rebate, so let's clear up some common ones. So if you're just dealing with all buyers being first-time home buyers or just a single buyer, then the rebate's going to apply as we've shown with the maximum amount available. So when you have spouses and one is a first-time home buyer and one is not, the full land transfer tax rebate will be available as long as the spouse who is not a first-time home buyer did not own a home while they were considered your spouse. So if you got married and the person owned a condo and they still owned it after you got married, then the land transfer tax rebate would not be available. Now, if they sold that condo before you got married or were considered spouses, then that first-time homebuyer rebate would be available to both parties buying jointly. Now, when you're dealing with parent-child, the percentage available to the child who's a first-time homebuyer is going to be available based on the percentage in which they're the owner. Now, in a lot of cases, we see this 99%, 1% ownership when a parent is coming on for mortgage purposes. And in that case, we can actually do 100% of the rebate as long as we set it up as the parent being a bare trustee. So they have no beneficial ownership. They're on there just for the mortgage purposes. The child who's a first-time homebuyer is still the full beneficial owner of 100% of the property, even when we have both names on title and that parent is not a first-time homebuyer, that full rebate can still be available. Now, when we have unrelated buyers, the percentage of the rebate available is going to be based on the first-time homebuyers and the percentage they're buying in. So let's take an example where we have 3 buyers. One is a first-time homebuyer, the other 2 are not. And they're splitting the property 40, 40, 20, with 20% going to the first-time homebuyer. That means they would be able to use 20% of the maximum rebate to apply to their portion. So that would be 20% of the maximum of $4,000 rebate on provincial land transfer tax and 20% of $4,475 on municipal land transfer tax, if that applies. So now we know what land transfer tax is, when it's due, how that rebate looks, and what those numbers actually look like in real life. If you're buying a property and want to see your actual land transfer tax payable, then you can use our legal fee calculator. We've actually built it so it calculates the land transfer tax due. If you're in the city of Toronto, it calculates municipal land transfer tax. And if you qualify as a first-time home buyer, then it will actually calculate the rebates on the spot and give you an instant number. So I'll include that link down below so you can always check that out. Now, if you want more breakdowns like this on closing costs or residential real estate law in general, please make sure you subscribe and look out for the next video.